and welcome to Fiction Fans, a podcast where we read books and other words too. I'm Lilly.
And I'm Sara.
And I'm just going to supersede all of our good things and say, we hung out this weekend!
Yes!
Yay!
It was delightful.
Oh, I haven't seen you in person in years.
Yeah, I think we saw each other in February for Gallifrey 1, which is a Doctor Who convention that we attend. And then in March, it was pandemic time.
Yeah, so it's been since 2020. It has been almost 2 years.
Yeah, which I think is the longest time we've gone without seeing each other in person, actually.
Like ever.
Yeah.
Well, that's cheating because we do have family Christmas together, which coincidentally is the topic of this episode.
Christmas in general, not our family Christmas.
Can you imagine if I was like, gather around, everyone. We're going to talk about how our family has mimosas. Like, what? It's the boringest white people traditions ever.
We would lose all of our listeners.
Anyway, so other than that wonderful, absolutely fantastic event, I've actually had a great couple of weeks. I could just go on and on about great stuff. But do you have anything in particular?
I had something that was quite great that happened today. We normally at work, have a meeting every Wednesday that runs for an hour, sometimes longer. And today it was only 10 minutes.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And that was really nice. I appreciated that. My own little Christmas miracle.
I feel like everyone is getting tired of meetings.
Mm-hmm.
'Tis the season to avoid work at all costs.
Yep.
I'm in the middle of the Christmas crunch because I am in advertising, and it turns out people want to do advertising during Christmas or something.
Who'd have thunk it?
So shit's wild, but I'm almost done.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
There is. I'm getting there. My other good thing is that I am recording this on a new microphone.
Very exciting.
Hopefully that was obvious. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess you'll just have to edit the episode and see how it sounds.
I'm really just hoping for less heavy breathing that I have to cut. Because, yeah.
You mean you don't want to listen to your own heavy breathing all the time?
For hours and hours every week? It turns out no. And I bet no one else does either. Anyway, on this excellent, wonderful winter's eve, dear Sara, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, it's a dark and stormy night out, but I am not drinking dark and stormies, mostly because I don't have any limes. So instead, I made myself some Swedish mulled wine, which has mulling spices and vodka in it, and sugar and wine, and it's quite good. I like it a lot.
You sent me the recipe, and it looks incredible.
I did send you the recipe,
but I did not go to the grocery store. So
the recipe calls for individual spices, and I had a mulling spice mix that I just used instead because I was lazy. I had all of the ingredients for the recipe, but I also had mulling spice mix that I wanted to use up.
There you go.
And what are you drinking tonight, Lilly? I
came up with a very good name for it. I'm calling it a hot white Russian toddy. No, a white hot Russian toddy. There we go. Got to split up the words. A white hot Russian toddy. There we go.
That sounds very sweet.
I didn't add that much sugar. It's
well, if it's a white Russian,
that's just because there's milk in it. It's not actually a white Russian.
Okay.
It's Earl Grey with half a teaspoon of sugar and vanilla extract and a little bit of milk and a little bit of spiced rum.
That still sounds sweet, but it also sounds good.
It's delicious.
Maybe I would have no sugar in it if I made it. Keep the vanilla extract, not add the sugar.
I was going to say, other than the books we're discussing today, but we're not really discussing a book today. We're deviating from our format. But that means, Sara, you've probably had time to do actual reading lately.
A little bit. Not that much, actually. But I'm in the middle of reading For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, which, despite what the title And red cloaked illustration of a girl on the cover might lead you to believe is not actually very much Red Riding Hood at all. It's more like Beauty and the Beast if I had to compare it to a particular fairy tale.
Do you have to compare it to a fairy tale?
Well,
is that the vibe?
Probably not. I mean, that's kind of the vibe.
Gotcha.
But I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm about halfway through, I think. Yeah, just a little over halfway. And I like it a lot.
Wonderful.
I think there's a sequel that Witten is working on, which is exciting.
You just gave me that book, so.
I did just give you that book. And what have you been reading?
I have been reading some poetry, not by a specific person, but on a very specific theme. People have been taking tweets by, I don't even want to use the word conservative, like fire and brimstone religious people, like the kind who think women who wear pants will go to hell, like those kind of people.
Yes.
And using them to make blackout poetry, and it's delightful.
That sounds wonderful. Did you get that from a book or an online site or?
No, I was just on Reddit.
Well, I like it.
Here's a very good one. I am a god, you fool. Also, have premarital sex. So,
what was the original tweet out of curiosity?
I don't check. I've seen tweets by the person who they used for these pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the general theme, but
yeah,
this way is much more fun.
I mean, I think that sounds like a better reading experience.
It's certainly more enjoyable overall. Anyway, as implied, outright stated, you clicked on the episode. You know what the title is. I managed to coerce Sara into watching.
Wait. I wanted to do a Wheel of Time check-in first.
Oh, so we're still talking about TV and not books.
We are still talking about TV and not books.
This is a garbage episode. All right, let's go.
I just wanted to do a real quick Wheel of Time check-in because it was specifically mentioned that a listener was looking forward to the return of the Wheel of Time check-ins. And we haven't done any for the past 4 episodes of Wheel of Time. So you're going to have to sit through this one. I'm sorry. The face you are making right now.
Anyone who wants to hear my thoughts should go listen to the guest episode we did on our pod on Wednesdays We Read. Is that episode? That'll be out by the time this episode's out.
Yes, I think that episode comes out the day before this episode does. But mostly, I just wanted to talk about spoilers for the first 6 episodes of the Wheel of Time series, by the way.
So we are putting this behind a spoiler wall?
We should.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, we should.
To avoid spoilers for the Wheel of Time TV show, skip to 11:23.
Mostly, I just wanted to talk about the fact the show actually makes Swan and Moiraine's relationship explicit, which I very much was not expecting them to do, given that in the books, it's really only hinted at. I guess it's implied in the prequel, but they also both end up with men later on, and it's never really touched upon. So I wasn't expecting them to be actually in a relationship.
It sounds like the books treated it more like a convenience sex buddies thing, whereas the show is treating it more as bisexual people exist.
Yeah, which I think is great. I love how just casually gay this show is. It's not something that I expected, but I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been enjoying the show, the last couple episodes anyway. I'm pretty disappointed I fell asleep before that one even started, but it was ungodly o'clock in the morning.
It was late at night. We had quite a lot of wine and already watched 2 Christmas movies. So I think that you can be forgiven for falling asleep.
And I missed the lesbian witches.
There's still time. Also, there's a line in their, I don't really want to call it a sex scene because we don't see them having sex. We do see an on-screen kiss, but
intimate moment.
There's a line in their intimate moment that was apparently ad-libbed, and it's a callback to a scene earlier. So I'm just going to give you spoilers because I figure you don't care about it.
That's true. I don't.
But so there's a scene earlier on in the episode where Maureen has come back to the tower and she's in a meeting with the other Aes Sedai and the Amyrlin Seat. And the Amyrlin Seat, who is Swan, she's the head honcho.
Yes, that's important context. Thank you.
Yes. She is asking Maureen to talk about what she was doing in the Two Rivers, and Maureen refuses. And Swan says something like, "On your knees." And then in the sex scene, in the intimate moment, Maureen tells Swan, "On your knees." And it's just a really nice reversal. And
I missed it.
And reference, yes.
I guess the show still exists online. There's a very small chance I'm actually going to watch it without you here to bother me, though.
You could still watch episode 6, but yeah.
Has anyone just excerpted those scenes for YouTube yet?
I mean, it probably exists somewhere.
That's how I watch True Blood. Just all the Eric Northman scenes cut out and posted on YouTube.
I will see if I can find that for you. It's very good. I liked that episode a lot. Anyway, that is about the extent of my Wheel of Time check-in.
Well, I look forward to the next one. Back to the Muppet Show!
Now?
I'm doing Kermit arms. You can't tell.
Now we can talk about the show that you actually wanted to talk about.
Well, it's probably not a surprise that of the two of us, I am the Muppet fan.
No, I don't think it's a surprise. It's not that I dislike the Muppets. It's just I didn't watch them. I'm not super familiar with them.
Yeah, I guess being not a fan in this case, meaning having very little background. That's not the right word. Experience? That's
exposure?
Exposure, there we go. Because obviously anyone with exposure to the Muppets would be a fan.
I like the Kermit GIFs on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Those are mostly from the Muppet Show, which is a kind of sketch comedy variety show thing. Sarah, do you have any context for the Muppets, or do you just know that they're puppets?
I mean, I am vaguely familiar with them, but basically, yeah, I could name Kermit, and I could name Miss Piggy, and that's about all that I could name.
The Muppet Show itself is about the Muppets putting on their show in a theater, and you get the backstage of Kermit trying to keep the chaos controlled and, trying to find actors for their scene. And then you also see the little scenes that they do for the people in the audience, which is usually just Statler and Waldorf, who are the ones who heckle them constantly.
I see.
You probably know who they are. You've probably seen them.
I have seen them, actually.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't know their names if you told me just their names, but that was enough context for me to know who you were talking about.
The hecklers, very important. Also playing Jacob Marley in the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is what we're actually here to talk about. I will admit, I did not realize there was only one Marley because he is played by two Muppets in the movie.
It's true, there is only one Marley.
It doesn't actually change the movie at all. They just share the lines. I gotta say, this was an incredibly accurate adaptation.
Okay, but were the songs accurate?
There were not that many songs, i.e. 0 in the book. But you gotta have music. It's the Muppets.
There were a lot of songs in this adaptation. I was not expecting that.
So this musical adaptation of The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens is so absolutely very good. And I'm not just saying that because I have some hardcore nostalgia for it.
It was okay.
Okay, but you're not saying it was an okay adaptation. You were saying you disliked the movie. Those are different.
No, I think as an adaptation, it was very good. As a movie, I am not the intended audience.
Not only am I the Muppet fan, I am also the Christmas movie fan.
Yes, we do celebrate Christmas very differently and enjoy different things about the holiday season.
Okay, let's see. Our overlap is lights and decorations and food.
Yes.
That is our common Christmas ground.
Yes.
I am all about the god-awful pop music.
No.
You can't disagree with me, okay?
Please save me from Christmas music. I hate it. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
I didn't play any while you
I
were
was
here.
so incredibly grateful. That was one of the best gifts you could have given me. You did make me watch Christmas movies, though.
Only the Muppet Christmas Carol. Your idea was the Princess Switch.
Well,
you don't get to blame that on me.
That's because I can still blame it on you.
Oh, okay.
You didn't have to agree to it. That's because the Princess Switch seemed so over the top ridiculous that it went through sentimental and went and came out the other side of funny.
The Muppets are pretty silly as well, but the Muppet Christmas Carol is extremely sentimental. The book is pretty emotional.
Yeah, sentimental movies are not my jam. Like, I like Christmas movies like Rare Exports, which you also showed me this weekend.
Yeah, but that one doesn't count because it's amazing.
But it's a Christmas movie. So I'm saying I don't dislike all Christmas movies. I just dislike the sentimental or like the Hallmark kind of movies. Not that A Muppet Christmas Carol was Hallmark, but like that's the kind of movie that I dislike.
Yeah. I think sentimental is the right word. Rare Exports is extremely emotional, but it comes at it from a very different angle.
It's got, explosions and things. And that's what I want from my Christmas movie.
But Ruby, which means nothing to anyone, except you should all go watch Rare Exports after you watch The Muppet Christmas Carol, because they are both excellent pieces of art in very different ways.
Or just skip Muppet Christmas Carol and go straight to Rare Exports. That's fine too.
I'll allow it. Our notes here actually include an additional Christmas movie that you like that I'm going to force you to say on record, so we can say that there are 2 Christmas movies that you like.
Well, this is kind of a lie because I haven't actually seen Die Hard.
You haven't? Oh, that's right.
I haven't seen Die Hard, but it is the kind of Christmas movie that I would like, which is why I included it on the list.
There's a dinner theater up here that plays it for Christmas every year, or used to, when movie theaters were a thing.
Well, if they ever do it again, I should go and visit you and we should do that.
I bet they also do the Muppet Christmas Carol.
No. I have watched the Muppet Christmas Carol for you for the podcast. I draw the line at watching it again without having any reason to watch it.
Fair enough. So this isn't entirely Sara and Lilly shit talk Christmas movies.
No, it's only half because I'm the only one shit talking them.
But also, hey, The Christmas Carol is a book. That counts.
It is. And you read it, or most of it, for this episode, although I did not.
I did. The edition that I have has images of the original handwritten manuscript on the opposite facing pages of each page, which is pretty cool. I did not even attempt to read any of that because Homeboy's got terrible handwriting.
I think and I haven't watched any video or listened to this at all, but I think that in 2013 or thereabouts, Neil Gaiman dressed up as Charles Dickens and read the original manuscript for an event for the New York Public Library.
That sounds incredible. The original manuscript is rough. On top of his terrible handwriting, Dickens's use of punctuation is creative at best.
Do you have some good examples for us?
It's hard to read punctuation out loud.
That's true. That was maybe an unfair question to spring on you.
But he uses capitals and colons and commas and periods just kind of wherever he feels like.
Do you think that that is indicative of the writing style of his time, or particularly indicative of him not knowing how to use punctuation?
So I did read the foreword and the introduction for this copy. So I got some historical context. And it sounds like that was just his writing style. He used punctuation to mimic vocal, like
speech patterns.
Thank you. That's the word. To mimic speech patterns instead of grammatically correct punctuation.
Interesting.
In it, I mean, I got used to it kind of. It makes it very difficult to read, honestly. But overall, I mean, it's very, very good, creepy. His descriptions of the ghosts are much more haunting than the Muppets.
They're not, I wouldn't call them particularly haunting in the Muppet version, except for the first ghost, or I guess technically the second because we see Marley.
Actually, the third because Marley is 2, but
okay, fine.
Statler and Waldorf.
I'll allow it. And that ghost was pretty creepy and haunting.
In a like uncanny valley sort of way.
Yeah, I don't think that was necessarily intentionally. Like, I mean, obviously they were going for a vibe, but I think it hit maybe harder than they were going for.
In the book, that ghost is described as being both an old man and extremely young child at the same time, which I think they actually did kind of nail.
I didn't see that ghost as being old and young.
But unsettling. Extremely.
Unsettling, yes. The most unsettling of the ghosts.
The other thing that stood out to me about this book is how short it is. It's tiny.
How many pages is it?
So mine is double the length because half of it is manuscript, so it's doubled. I just said that already. And it's 135 pages.
That's quite short. I think I've read it, but it's been a long time. Dickens is not a particularly favorite author of mine.
Well, you can tell this was not a work he was getting paid for by the word. I mean, that's the thing, right? Authors that did these, there were serials, right? When they would publish chapters of a book weekly or monthly.
Paid fan fiction. Only it was original work.
Yeah.
Not fan work. The format was the same.
And then, I mean, it works for Sherlock Holmes because it was a different story each time. But when you get some of these other works that are supposed to be one novel that are just so humongously long, tell me you couldn't cut some of that. But when your paycheck is dependent on publishing a chapter every week, yeah, you're going to pad that shit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense. I just don't want to read it.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
It would probably be sacrilegious, but I would love to read a well done abridged version.
Of Dickens in particular, or?
Yeah. I attempted to read The Tale of Two Cities in middle school because I thought that was cool, and I bounced off of the first page.
I read a couple of Dickens books in high school because my father really wanted me to read them. And he said, if you read a Dickens book, for every Dickens book you read, I'll give you $20. And that worked for the first one. Like, he gave me the money and I read the book. And then eventually he gave me the money and I just never finished the book, but I kept the $20.
Well, it's kind of a scam that you were paid the same, that you were being paid by the book.
I should have made him pay me by the page.
Yeah, or just read the Christmas Carol over and over again.
Exactly.
I learned some other neat tidbits from the introduction and foreword of this book. There were 2 different ones. One was an introduction and one was a foreword. And I'm not actually sure what the difference is between those 2 things, except that you get both sometimes.
You know, I don't think I've ever actually considered that.
If there's only one, I feel like the words are interchangeable. And there's only 2 words so that you can have both of them in one book.
Quite possibly. I feel like one of them should be written by the author and the other one doesn't have to be.
Well, neither of these were.
I mean, here we go. Greenleafbookgroup.com, whatever greenleafbookgroup.com is, obviously, you know, a very well-regarded and accurate place on the internet. They're the first Google result. It says a foreword is written by someone other than the author and tells the readers why they should read the book. A preface is written by the author and tells readers how and why the book came into being. An introduction introduces readers to the main topics of the manuscript, and prepares readers for what they can expect.
Okay, I do think that followed along, actually.
I'm right that a foreword doesn't or shouldn't be written by the author.
Shouldn't or should?
Should not.
Oh, gotcha. Well, anyway, whatever were the ones in this book. Now I feel like maybe I got them wrong. Wait, okay, what are they? Yeah, there's a foreword by Colm Toybean, which I'm sure I mispronounced, and an introduction by Declan Keeley. The foreword went into almost a little overview of the story a little bit. So what you can expect from the book, right? That was the definition. Mm-hmm. And then the introduction talked a little bit more about the historical context for the novel and also how the manuscript came to be, how it was used as an investment by bankers, which is weird.
That is quite odd.
It was eventually owned by J.P. Morgan, aka Mr. Chase Bank, and then was donated to a library, which restored the pages. It went into the chemical process of how they took the silk off the back that was used to reinforce the paper, and they did some neat stuff.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it was very cool. No, that's not true. I like the story.
It would have been my favorite part of the book.
And yeah, then they took digital images of the manuscript pages and then printed it. So super interesting. Apparently, when this book was written, Dickens was in dire financial straits and a ton of debt, although 200, I guess they weren't even dollars. 200 numbers is completely meaningless to me, but I'm told that he was in dire financial straits, so I believe them. And he was depending on this book to basically save his finances. And it sold so well. They reprinted it 2 or 3 times before January because it was published before Christmas. But he designed the book so fancy, with colored images. There was 8 pictures in the book and nice binding and colored leather and all that he actually only made 50 number of currency units, which was not enough to save him.
That was maybe not thinking ahead, Mr. Dickens.
He was too invested in the art. This was apparently also near the beginning of his, or an example of his social activism. I don't remember. He obviously is very obsessed with sad little poor children and wrote a lot of books about them, including this one.
This is an accurate statement.
Anyway, Scrooge is wild.
Scrooge is a little wild.
I should know the actor's name.
I did keep thinking Alfred from Batman whenever I saw him.
Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was hard to separate out.
Oh, he did such a good job, though. One of my favorite things about the Muppets is how absurd it is that these very talented actors and musicians and artists play it dead straight, interacting with these Muppets. It's the best.
It's true. He was very good in this.
That's a praise for the Muppet format in general. That's just so inherently silly, and I love it. Especially when you get such incredible actors like Michael Caine totally nailing the character of Scrooge, who sucks pretty hard, huh?
Scrooge is not great. I don't have more to say than he is not great.
His character arc is very much accelerated in the book.
Do you think it's slower in the movie?
I think so. I think he resists the spirits a little bit longer in the movie.
I didn't think that he resisted the spirits at all.
Oh, okay. I mean, the movie was very close. Most of the dialogue was lifted directly from, a lot of the dialogue was lifted directly from the book. There were some, Muppet moments.
And some songs.
It's written in this weird kind of first person, but it's from the perspective of the storyteller. So it's Charles Dickens telling you this story.
Mm-hmm.
But he uses I pronouns the entire time as the narrator. Believe me, true, and stuff like that. But he's not actually in it. So I'm not sure. That's still first person perspective. It's just not from the point of the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's not told by one of the characters in the story. Anyway, so this was adapted into the Muppet Christmas Carol by casting Gonzo as Charles Dickens. which is possibly an even better casting decision than Ebenezer Scrooge, played by Michael Caine.
I will take your word for it, because not being particularly familiar with the Muppets means I'm not particularly familiar with Gonzo.
No, I was being silly. Gonzo is nonsense personified. So him being Charles Dickens is very silly. And he is telling the story to his friend Rizzo the Rat. And that is the framing of the movie, and also apparently very accurate to the book. I don't think Charles Dickens was telling the story to a rat.
I was just going to ask you.
But then Rizzo gets to be us, the listener to the tale. They also cast Fozzie as Fezziwig, which that was a shocking moment for me, that the character's name is actually Fezziwig. Because in the movie, of course, it's Fozziewig, which is perfect.
That's very good coincidence.
It's incredible. It's a little weird because in the book, at the Christmas party, he's with his wife and they're like the happiest couple, and they throw the best Christmas party and everyone loves it, and they make everyone's lives brighter and joyful. In the movie, it's his mom, which is kind of a weird...
Or maybe he's just calling his wife mother, which is a thing.
I guess.
I mean, it was a thing.
That's true. All right. I guess my parents do that, so I can't really complain about it. But as their child, that's their names, so I don't notice. But hearing someone else do that gives me pause. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be his mother, though. Hold on. I think the sign on the door says Fozziewig and Mom. Yeah, with his mother, Fozziewig presides over the annual Christmas party. Anyway, that's fine. That's just because Fozzie's not married. And actually, I think him having a wife would be weirder than them translating the wife character into the mother character.
On the other hand, Kermit and Miss Piggy aren't married either.
Oh, that bugs the shit out of me. I've kind of given up because they're just the leading actors. Ooh, actually, that's how I've decided to interpret it from now on. Because in the Muppet Show, Miss Piggy is always hitting on Kermit. And Kermit is always just flat out rejecting her and not interested at all, because she's a prima donna and he is just trying to make the show happen. I'm very invested in the Muppet lore.
I can tell. I didn't expect that this episode would bring so much, Muppet trivia to the forefront.
You should know me better by now. So they're always cast as romantic leads, though. But now I have decided that's just because the Kermit and Miss Piggy from the Muppet Show are them, and they're acting as romantic leads in things like the Christmas Carol, where they play the Cratchits.
So then do you think that this movie, or are you interpreting this movie as just being a performance that the entire cast is putting on?
Yes, because I believe it is. So it's Kermit playing Bob Cratchit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not Kermit and Miss Piggy are married. They're just playing a married couple on TV.
And everyone else is just playing parts too, then?
Except for Gonzo, who insists he is indeed Charles Dickens.
He's just really into character?
Mm-hmm. No, it does bother me whenever there's like, oh, Kermit and Miss Piggy, because no, they're not together.
Yeah, I don't...
There's nowhere to go from that.
And again, not being super familiar with the Muppets or particularly into Christmas movies and the Muppet Christmas Carol, I have no pertinent thoughts to offer on Kermit and Miss Piggy and their romantic relationship or lack thereof.
Well, I fixed the problem. They're not involved. Their characters are. That's all. I'm fine with that. I'm not mad anymore.
Oh, good.
I really only have one last comment on this book and movie. It's the same comment, which is that Tiny Tim always makes me cry.
Tiny Tim does not make me cry.
That's just because you're watching the movie under duress, and so you're not invested.
Possibly. I mean, I do cry at the drop of a hat, so you would think that I would cry at Tiny Tim.
That's why I say this is not a genuine reaction. You're just so put out that you have to watch this movie.
Quite possibly.
That you're not going to let it touch your soul.
In this one instance, I am beginning of the movie Scrooge.
Oh, you are. And I'll be end of the movie Scrooge. Actually, no, I'm the nephew who's always trying to get Scrooge to do Christmas stuff.
That checks out. Okay, so Lily, I can't answer this question, obviously, but why should you watch this movie?
Oh, easy. Because it's fantastic.
Okay, is there anything a little bit beyond that?
It is, well, the story is a Christmas classic. And I do think there is value in the classics. Not, it shouldn't be the only type of story that you interact with, but it's very culturally relevant. So, watch this movie for the same reason I watch Wheel of Time. But also, it's very cute. I love the Muppets. I know I'm not the only one, right? I can't be the only one.
You're the only one on this podcast, but not the only one in the world.
There we go. And so it brings a lighthearted fun to a story that does get pretty dark. Like there's a scene in the book where Scrooge is watching his servants rob his corpse. It's rough. And there is still that in the movie, but we don't actually see them rob his corpse. We just see them fencing it afterwards. So it's,
and that makes it all better.
I think the Muppets just didn't want to show a dead body on screen.
I mean, understandable.
Yeah. And at the end, it's still a very heartwarming story where everyone is better for it and Tiny Tim survives. So if you want some happy tears, some Christmas feels, and a lot of Kermit the Frog, you should watch this movie. And you should read the book because it's short. And it's very interesting to see how similar it is, because this is a book podcast. So, Sarah, did you know that the word portmanteau is actually French for a word that is strange or out of place? Could even be translated as weird.
That's a very good point. It could be translated as weird. I did not know that specific definition.
It's
of
not
portmanteau.
I was expecting you to correct me immediately.
I don't know. If you talk with enough authority, I just believe that what you're saying. I was like, well, that's not a definition that I know, but I don't know all French in the world, so.
No, it actually is a suitcase that is two parts that fold together. Or wait, how did the encyclopedia say it? A suitcase that opens into halves, although in the word context, it refers to one word that is made out of smooshing two words together.
Interesting.
That one was real. I'm not lying anymore.
Oh, but now no one's going to believe you.
Oh, no.
I do realize, as part of this conversation, that I mispronounced fanzine. Fanzine is the right way to pronounce it.
Fanzine. Yeah.
Yeah, because you said that it's a portmanteau of fan and magazine. But I just read that word and I think zine. It should be zine. Fanzine.
Yeah, no. It's a zine.
That. Words are weird.
Words are weird. Apparently, Lewis Carroll was the first person to use the word portmanteau to describe portmanteaus in Alice in Wonderland, referring to the nonsense in his poem Jabberwocky. So that's cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize that he was the one who first coined the phrase.
Well, it only referred to a suitcase before then.
Well, I guess I mean coined the phrase in this particular sense of the meaning.
Yes. But portmanteaus are everywhere. And maybe they're more neat than weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool how people take two words and turn them into one word. And then sometimes that single word becomes enmeshed in our language and just becomes a word in and of itself, like brunch.
Yeah, I was looking up a list of portmanteau examples just because I thought it would be interesting to include. And I forgot that brunch is two different words.
Brunch is not one that I forget, really. But I do forget spork is two different words.
Oh, that one I don't, because the thing is also two things smushed together.
I think I use it less. And so it occupies less space in my brain.
I didn't know. I didn't just forget. I didn't even know that smog is a portmanteau.
Of what?
Smoke fog. Which
I guess that makes sense.
That's exactly what it is.
That is what it is. I always think of portmanteaus in the context of fan fiction shipping names.
Oh, yeah, there's a bazillion of those.
Because they always get smushed together.
Mm-hmm.
Like for Harry Potter, Draco and Hermione, it would become Hermione, or I'm sure there are other examples.
Yeah.
That aren't coming to mind at the moment.
What's another popular one?
Oh, Drary, Draco Harry. Yeah. I was hoping you would have some Witcher shipping portmanteaus to fill out this list.
I think Garaskier, Yaskier is one. I don't see as many portmanteaus in that fandom, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
It's also very difficult to portmanteau 3 names together. And there's a lot of thruple Yennefer, Geralt, Yaskier. Because why choose when you don't have to?
Why indeed?
It's not just fan fiction, though. People do it to celebrity couples, too.
That's very true, actually.
Brangelina.
Yeah.
That's the only one I can think of, but I'm sure there's more.
There probably is. And I think it's fascinating because I feel, maybe I'm completely off in this, but I feel like the people who are shipping celebrities, that portion of the population doesn't necessarily, or the people writing about them, in tabloid magazines or whatever, doesn't necessarily overlap with the people writing fan fiction. And so we have these 2 separate groups of people who have both done the same thing for different pairings, but the same concept.
Yeah, I think it might be something to do with wanting to refer to them as a unit, but obviously, they have different names. It fills a linguistic purpose.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any kind of academic papers on the subject. I think that would be interesting reading.
There must be, right?
I would expect so. I have no idea whether or not I'm right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fiction Fans.
When this episode is posted, there will be exactly 1 week left to participate in our fundraiser. Donate to the Imagination Library and we will make a matching contribution. Details are on our website at fictionfanspodcast.com/fundraiser.
Come disagree with us. We're on Twitter and Instagram at fictionfanspod, and you can also email us at fictionfanspod@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the episode, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and follow us wherever your podcasts live.
Thanks again for listening, and may your villains always be defeated. Bye.
Bye.